Hey everybody, Ethan here. I want to talk to you guys today about framework wars. War, bring it on. Angular versus React versus Ember, VueJS, all the framework wars. And not even specific to frameworks, right? Even when it comes to using AWS services, like Lambda functions or managed Kafka streams, or when it comes to Azure functions, all the niceties you get from being within an ecosystem instead of building things, on your own, right? So before I get into that, I just wanted to, ask if you wouldn't mind, if you enjoy this video, please, press the like button below this video. Be greatly appreciated. It helps with the YouTube algorithms, help, get my videos out there. The more views that, I get and the more likes that I get, the faster I grow, and, it'd be really helpful. So appreciate it. And also, please feel free to leave comments. I read and reply to every single one. So if you have any comments or questions about the video, or thoughts, I'd love to hear them. I'd love to hear your feedback. If there's anything you think I can improve on my videos, or if you simply disagree with me, I love people giving feedback and telling me their opinions. So with that said and out of the way, let's get into it. So the other day I was watching a really interesting video. Got to give a shout out to Academind. They really make some awesome content. And the specific video I'm referring to is my thoughts on JavaScript framework churn. That is the name of the video that I watched, and I'll put a link in the description to the video because I thought it was a really cool video and very informative. And it sparked an idea that I wanted to kind of talk about a little bit. So first of all, what is, for those of you who may not be familiar, what does it mean when you say the framework wars, right? Framework wars really mean so everything started from JavaScript, right? JavaScript was essentially, it began as a language that you can use in the browser to create feature-rich functionality on web applications. And then it became really popular, so the people started creating libraries and extensions to JavaScript. The most popular one was jQuery, and that became just huge. But people started taking it to the next level, not just, adding rich features to web applications, but also designing full-fledged web-based applications, no longer needing clients on desktops or anything, just creating it all in your browser, which, has a lot of benefits, which could be a whole nother video. Anyways, so started creating frameworks, things like AngularJS, things like React, things like Ember, Vue, etc., etc. So the framework war is really who has the best framework, what is the better framework, etc., etc. That's really what people talk about when they say framework wars. And my personal thought is that it can be extended to anything. So whether or not you use AWS versus Azure versus your local database or your local server on your own internal network, right? So the whole video really got me, into my head, and I have preconceived thoughts and notions about this stuff. So my thoughts are, if you're able to use something that's already there, then you should. That is my opinion, except for extreme circumstances and cases where maybe you might not want to use it. There are very few use cases, and sorry that I'm adjusting the camera, but it's just not comfortable. There we go. There are specific use cases, if you're writing a compiler for a language, if you're writing Ruby and C, then yeah, you're not going to use frameworks. You're going to write all that stuff custom, right? But when it comes to the majority of things, if you're building a web-based application, right? Why bother writing what's quote unquote vanilla JS, which, by the way, I think that's a bad term for it, but that's beside the point. Vanilla is a flavor. Yeah, I have friends who love vanilla taste. There is a taste of vanilla. I think using the terminology vanilla JavaScript, vanilla JS is not. I prefer just calling it ECMAScript 6 or JavaScript or whatever. But either way, that's neither here nor there. A good example of somebody using a website, building things out from existing technologies and frameworks, is A Cloud Guru. Shout out to A Cloud Guru. They are hands down the absolute authority and best people around for getting your AWS certification. I passed 2 certification exams on my first try, and I attribute every aspect of it to a Cloud Guru. Their courses are incredible. They are awesome instructors. Like, they're just the best in the industry, the best. And no, this is not sponsored. I'm not getting paid by them. It's just my opinions. So why is using existing frameworks or services a good thing? Because it gets you to market faster. That's one reason. I mean, there's so many reasons. It gets you marketed faster. It gets you. It means that you don't have to worry. Am I writing this efficiently or not? Because you know how many people, how many contributors and people that are on the Angular project or the React project, all these open source frameworks that are writing code and getting reviewed by Google employees, by Microsoft employees, the top of the line programmers. I mean, no disrespect to anybody watching this, but do you really think you are going to write better code than the collective mind of thousands of people writing code? So you're going to get much better code as a result. Yes, you're going to have trade-offs. There might be things that might not be as great or might not be as performant because of other things that they've added to the framework or things like that. But at the end of the day, like I said, unless you have a very specific use case, odds are it's not going to make much of an impact with the processing power that's available in 2019 on most computers. And the other reason is cost, right? Because not just time to market, but if you were to develop everything, let's just take Angular as an example, just because I'm biased to Angular. I love Angular. But let's just take Angular as an example. Like, if you had to write, all the component functionality, if you had to write the 2 or 3-way data binding functionality, if you had to write, all the syntax helpers and form helpers and all these things that you just get out of the box, how long will that take you? Then ask yourself, it took you that long, how much did that actually cost you or the person that hired you? So the 3 things are time, the collective experience and expertise of the community of people who are building these frameworks, and money. Those are the 3 main reasons why you should be using frameworks or services that are available. When we're talking about services, let's take Amazon, for example. Like, they have, let's just say, the managed Kafka stuff, right? Why should you run your own Kafka servers and clusters and topics and consumers and brokers and all that kind of stuff when you can just rely on Amazon's very reliable infrastructure and not have to worry about any of it? Like, there's really no point in you doing it by yourself. Maybe it's a little bit extra, a little more expensive, but all the benefits so far outweigh that cost. You don't have to worry about, firmware updates. You don't have to worry about operating system patches or security vulnerabilities or scaling or, any of those kinds of things that you normally worry about. You just have to worry about your application logic and let Amazon handle the rest, right? So I mentioned a Cloud Guru and, the fact that they could be a good case study, because in one of the courses that they do, they mentioned how their application is run and their website is run and everything. So they have, I think it's an Angular front end. I'm not exactly sure, but I think it's an Angular front end. And it's on a S3 bucket, so there's no server. It's not being hosted anywhere. They don't have to pay hosting costs or anything like that. And they're using, I think they use Auth0 or something like that for their authentication. And it's all serverless. So they use Lambda functions, they use API gateway. They use all these different managed services and serverless components within Amazon, and that results in 0 overhead from them, very little cost because it's an on-demand usage type of model, and they were able to take advantage of all these wonderful features and functionality that AWS just provides out of the box. So, that's just a really good example of a use case where, there's 0 reason to build it yourself. And like I mentioned earlier, maybe if you're building a compiler or a just-in-time compiler, whatever it is for Ruby, and it's got to be very specific because of the performance and how it gets compiled, and it's a custom language and whatever. So I mean, yeah, that can make sense that you're going to build everything from scratch in C. So anyways, to summarize this video, I think that it really just boils down to your use case. That's ultimately what's going to decide whether or not you do vanilla or not. If you're writing a, I'm just going to go back to that example because that's just, I don't know why it's on top of my head, but if you're building Ruby and with a new compiler, then you're going to use C, and that just makes sense. if you're building a web-based application, there is no reason for you to have to write a custom backend and write JavaScript without any help, any frameworks, any libraries. It's in 2019, it doesn't make any sense. So with that being said, thanks you guys for watching. If you've made it this long through the video, really appreciate your support. And if you wouldn't mind, please hitting that like button really helps with the YouTube algorithms, really helps me. And if you haven't subscribed, please hit the subscribe button if you like this video and you want to see more content similar to that. Thanks guys, and have a great rest of your day, night, morning, wherever you are in the world. Thank you. Bye-bye.